Hello, and welcome to another episode of my prediction series for the 2016 presidential election season. So, in this episode, I will be discussing who I think are the main three frontrunners for the vice presidential pick for the presumptive nominee Hillary Clinton, why I believe they're the three frontrunners, their strengths and weaknesses, and then who I predict will be the ultimate choice in terms of my understanding of the political realities of the current political landscape in the United States. I would like to make a bit of a disclaimer. This is a prediction video, and fundamentally, it's a big guess because this is guessing what the mind of one person's going to decide. And so, in that respect, obviously, I could be wrong. It's a prediction, it's a guess. But I'm doing this anyways as an intellectual exercise to explain my own reasoning in terms of where I think some of the priorities in this election have been, and why I think one of the frontrunners makes an exceptionally more convincing pick in terms of the probability that this pick will be chosen based on some of the realities of what will happen after the election in November. So, as I see it, right now there's three main frontrunners for the vice presidential pick for Hillary Clinton. I believe those three frontrunners are Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey, Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, and Tim Kaine, the senator from Virginia. And of those three, I would say that it is most likely that Tim Kaine gets chosen as the vice presidential pick, then Cory Booker, and then Elizabeth Warren. And I'm going to explain why I've sort of made that prediction, and then I'll say who my ultimate prediction will be of those three. Okay, so first off, starting with the one I said is least likely of the three to be picked, in my opinion, Elizabeth Warren. So Elizabeth Warren is definitely an interesting person, but she doesn't have that much executive experience. So in terms of governing people, there's actually no experience that I can see within her history as a politician or in the private sphere that would lend itself to the belief that starting day one, if the need was there, that she would be a capable executive of the entire executive branch and the country. I have no doubt that she's a very intelligent human being, given her history as a professor, her history as an advisor who was instrumental in the creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and obviously her election as a U.S. state senator in a state with a Republican governor now. It's definitely not an easy thing to get elected as a Democrat these days, considering that the Republicans have a majority in both the Senate and the House right now. But the reason I don't think that Elizabeth Warren would be picked as the vice presidential pick has, I'll start with the weaknesses and then I'll talk about the strengths. So the weaknesses are that already Hillary Clinton's a controversial figure because there's never been a female candidate at the top of the presidential ticket. So there's a good argument to be made that America isn't ready for a ticket that has two females, both as the presidential candidate and as the vice presidential candidate, and that there will be some real struggles and difficulties in the general election for securing enough votes from the various demographics that Clinton will need in order to win. One of the big demographics that Clinton is having a real struggle with just so happens to be young white men under the age of 45. So Warren is the struggle with Warren is that she's a very divisive figure. So in order to win in a general election, a Democratic candidate tends to need to win at least some Republican votes. There are ways to win enough votes without winning a whole lot of Republican votes, but it definitely eases the victory. It makes it easier if there's less controversial candidates on the ticket in order to appeal to various demographics. So that's one of the criticisms for why I don't think Elizabeth Warren would be picked as the candidate. Another weakness for Elizabeth Warren is that because she's so outspoken in the media in respect to sort of being a lightning rod of controversy and division in the national conversation, that actually would make it, it would bolster the argument, essentially, on the Republican side, that a vote for Hillary Clinton would be a vote for too much change too quickly. It's one of the reasons that I think Sanders didn't win the nomination and is not the presumptive nominee right now. Is that a lot of his ideas were so big and so demanded so much rapid change that there's a whole part of the electorate that just wants stability, continuity, and a continuation of what makes the Obama administration's policies so great in terms of improving the economy, having a stable country. So some of the strengths of Elizabeth Warren is that she definitely is a very progressive figure. She would be great for party unity in the sense that she would fill the role that Bernie Sanders, had he been chosen as the vice presidential pick, would have filled, and that a lot of those Sanders supporters are very likely to support a lot of what Elizabeth Warren has argued for and stands for and has campaigned on as a politician. And so, to that extent, one of the strengths of an Elizabeth Warren pick is that it would be great for party unity. It would be awesome for identity politics in the sense that two women at the top of the ticket means that at no time during Hillary Clinton's term would there ever be a question that the top two most powerful people in the U.S. government wouldn't be women, which would be a huge thing in U.S. history because it's never happened. There's never been a vice president who was a woman, and there's never been a president who was a woman. So it'd be a big deal 100 years after after women received the right to vote, which would be towards the end of the first term of Hillary Clinton, should she be fortunate enough to become president. To have two women at the top of the ticket would be huge. It would be a really big deal. It would be such a big deal that it might spur a lot of the people opposed to such an idea to vote against a ticket like that. But it would also be a huge incentive for those who think that that having a female president and a female vice president at the same time is important. It'll definitely goad that entire group of the electorate into to action, to call to volunteering, and to speaking out every day about the need for having women as both at the top of the ticket. As a Clinton-Warren ticket would be amazing in that respect. So that is a strength if Elizabeth Warren is picked as the vice presidential pick. It would also transform the perception of Clinton's candidacy as being less centrist and definitely being sort of this transformative, progressive change maker trying to evolve the political discourse in a big way. And I see the upside to that, and I see the downside to that. The downside is if the ticket loses, it would certainly allow for some criticism of the argument that a woman can be elected president of the United States. But if the ticket succeeds, it bolsters the argument that a woman it can be elected president and vice president. So definitely some big strengths there, but also some glaring weaknesses. One of the weaknesses that I think makes it very unlikely that Elizabeth Warren will be elected, that Elizabeth Warren will be chosen as the vice presidential pick, has to do with special elections. So if Elizabeth Warren is chosen as the vice presidential pick, and then Hillary Clinton becomes the nominee at the Democratic convention, then there would have to be a replacement for Elizabeth Warren within the U.S. Senate and a special election. And in the interim, a senator would be appointed. And since Massachusetts has a Republican governor at the time, he could appoint a Republican Makes sense. And so that would affect the balance of power within the Senate if there's one less Democrat overall in the Senate being out there using that platform to make change in the world. So that's the biggest reason I can think of for why I do not think Elizabeth Warren will be the vice presidential pick. All right. So Cory Booker. Cory Booker's super fascinating guy. He has some executive experience at the local level, as he was the mayor of quite a large city, New York, New Jersey. And he's also a senator who was elected at the same time, actually. Well, similar time as Elizabeth Warren in terms of when they started their Senate careers. They're both first-term senators, as far as I can tell, for Warren and Booker. So there's I'll go again over the strengths and the weaknesses of Cory Booker pick and why I don't think he'll be the pick overall. So here's some of the weaknesses of a Cory Booker pick. Again, Cory Booker is a senator from a state with a Republican governor. That means that should Cory Booker be chosen as the vice presidential pick and then he gets elected as vice president, he can't be a senator and a vice president at the same time. He would be replaced with an appointment by the Republican governor. And the Republican governor of the state of New Jersey, Chris Christie, has every incentive to appoint a Republican senator within the state of New Jersey. And since incumbents have a higher chance of getting reelected, it would affect the potential balance of power within the Senate during a Clinton administration. So that's the biggest weakness in terms of why Cory Booker probably won't be the vice presidential pick for Hillary Clinton. Some of the other weaknesses have to do with his position on gun control. So the NRA is one of the most active special interest groups in the country, and Cory Booker has been very outspoken on the issue of gun control to a degree that might ruffle enough feathers on the Republican side to goad Republican voters into voting against a Booker Clinton ticket even more. It would energize the Republican base. It would give them an issue to rally around, and they would it would bolster the argument to vote against a Clinton Booker ticket. Okay, some of the strengths. One of the big strengths would be unity of the country. So the Black Lives Matter movement's been a big movement. It's gotten a lot of media attention, and it's definitely an important conversation being had right now in the country. And Cory Booker, as the mayor of one of the most violent cities at one point in the United States, New York, New Jersey, being elected the mayor there and then becoming a senator of New Jersey, he did an excellent job as the mayor of New York, New Jersey. Such a good job, in fact, that the people of New Jersey thought that he should be the U.S. senator, which he became. So in respect to figuring out a way to bridge the conversation between Black Lives Matter and the various other groups that are talking about civil rights and talking about these issues around the country, Cory Booker would be a great pick for sending that message loud and clear that Clinton wants the issues of gun control, the issues that Black Lives Matter have highlighted as important, as being right on up there, right at the top of the priority list, with Booker being the vice presidential pick. Some of the other strengths that Booker has have to do with executive level experience. So Booker was the mayor of a large city. He was on the city council for that same city, and he's a U.S. senator now. The executive experience would be the mayor part of essentially being the top executive of a large city. And it's a big deal to be a mayor of a large city because you deal with a lot of the same issues that executives of a state and of a country deal with. And so it's a really good thing to have on one's resume if being considered for the vice presidential spot because, you know, vice presidential candidates who become vice presidents have in the past become president when the need arose. It's just a consideration that has to be made for the experience when looking at who might be a good vice presidential pick. And so I think that is a strength. But ultimately, I don't think that Booker will be chosen as the vice presidential pick because of the balance of power on the Senate. If Booker becomes the vice presidential pick and gets elected, he'll be replaced as a senator, and the Republican governor of the state of New Jersey will appoint a senator, which would affect the overall balance of power of the Senate during the Clinton administration, which is a downside. All right, so then let's talk about, I will talk about Tim Kaine. So Tim Kaine is the current U.S. Senator from the state of Virginia. He was the chair of the Democratic National Committee at one point. He was the governor of Virginia at one point. He was the lieutenant governor of Virginia, and he was the mayor of Richmond. And he's had a long and pretty interesting career as a politician. I mean, not super duper long, but definitely long enough that he's made his mark on the world, and it's overall been a positive mark. He started from being a mayor to lieutenant governor to governor to the head of the Democratic National Committee to a U.S. Senator. These are all very big, very powerful, very prominent positions. And the biggest weakness of Tim Kaine is that he's the biggest weakness that I can see is that he's a white male in a year where identity politics has been a big issue around the country, about getting the country's leadership to be more reflective of the many minority groups that exist within the country. And so that's an argument against Tim Kaine as a vice presidential pick. Some of the other arguments against Tim Kaine as a vice presidential pick have to do with how he's sort of middle of the road, very centrist, it doesn't really excite the base in the same way that Booker or Warren would, because Booker and Warren each bring their own unique advantages to a vice presidential pick in terms of being progressive, transformational, being very unique in that it would be the first woman African-American ticket, or it'd be the first woman-woman ticket in terms of sort of progressing the country in terms of who's elected to be the most powerful people of the country in the executive branch. So those are some of the weaknesses. Now here's all the strengths. The first strength is the executive level experience. Being a mayor, a governor, and being part of the U.S. legislative branch, and being chair of the DNC, those are all really big roles. And the deal with how big they are is that Tim Kaine was definitely acutely aware of the massive responsibility and the challenges that one faces when being an executive of an entity and governing, be it a city as big as Richmond, be it the state of Virginia, which is a big deal, it's a big state, or something that's a national level, which is the DNC, and that DNC is a national committee for the entire Democratic Party, which is, it's a tough job, and it's a big job. So in that respect, Tim Kaine has a lot more executive level experience than Cory Booker or Elizabeth Warren, the other two people I said who I think are the front runners of the three. One of the other strengths is that Virginia has a Democratic governor right now, and so if Tim Kaine becomes the vice president, then a Democrat could be appointed to the Senate in before there's a special election, or when there is the election for another senator, but I think it would be an appointment until the next election. And that's a big deal. So, because the balance of power within the Senate wouldn't be negatively affected by having a Republican replace one of the candidates running for VP who becomes VP if Clinton wins. So that's a consideration. So that's why I think that Tim Kaine will be Hillary Clinton's pick for vice president because he checks off a lot of boxes. The biggest box is his executive level experience, but some of the other strengths have to do very much with how much of a centrist and a moderate he is. So Hillary Clinton, from a lot of objective measures, has run a very moderate, very conventional, very centrist campaign. A lot of her issues that she stands for and argues for, they don't really rock the boat very much. They're sort of incremental, gradual change, realistic change, arguably through changing laws and just sort of inching towards progress one step at a time. Instead of a giant leap for humanity, it's taking small steps, but still getting there eventually. So in that respect, it would make the most sense to me, given how conventional and how moderate and centrist Clinton's campaign has been, that she would pick Tim Kaine as the VP pick, because Virginia is one of those competitive states in the general election. As the former governor, lieutenant governor, and mayor of the city of Richmond and senator of the state of Virginia, Tim Kaine would do very well at convincing folks and voters in Virginia that Virginia should vote in enough numbers to elect Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine as the ticket, a Clinton-Kaine ticket. And I also think that the other main strength of Kaine has to do with fundraising. So, as the former chair of the DNC, as the former governor, lieutenant governor, mayor, Kaine has had the opportunity, more than Booker, more than Warren, more than any of the other individuals I haven't mentioned as potential VP picks, of making a lot of connections, building a really, really big network of people to talk to for fundraising. And a general election costs a lot of money. And so one of the big things that people have to do when they're running for president and also vice president is go to fundraisers, and is to get as much money as is needed to get elected. And so in that respect, and this is a big consideration, I think that Tim Kaine makes the most sense because he knows a lot of people by virtue of what he's done. And so that's why I think Tim Kaine will be Hillary Clinton's pick for vice president. That's the main reason, I think, because he checks off a whole lot of boxes on the checklist of things you might want to look for in a vice presidential pick in an election this big, where so much money needs to be raised. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I've made my arguments and my rationalizations clear for why I think Tim Kaine will be the VP pick. Thank you.